Am I the a-hole for kicking my wife out after she punched my mom in the face? My situation went from bad to worse in a matter of a week, and I don't know where else to turn. I need to know if I was wrong. Possibly a validation thing, because life is freaking dumb right now. My wife and I have been together for 8 years, and she just gave birth to our first and last baby 2 months ago. Up until my wife got pregnant, my mom loved her. I'm not sure what the freak is wrong with my mom or why the switch happened. But after my wife got pregnant, my mom started being very clingy to me and started avoiding my wife at all costs. Told everyone she wasn't excited about the pregnancy, etc. I threatened to go no contact with her when my wife was about 7 months along, and after that, she snapped out of it for the most part and stopped being so ignorant. The comments 100% stopped, at least, though she still was clinging to me. Now, a week ago, my mom, my sister's husband, and my sister's daughter, 12, came over for dinner. I prepared the meal. Before my wife could eat anything, our daughter got fussy, so my wife excused herself to go feed the baby and get her down to sleep. I thought I prepared enough, but apparently not, because my niece was still starving. She's 5'5" and 190 pounds. I haven't seen her in a year, and she was not that size then, so I didn't exactly portion in an extra 3 helpings for a child. So it's on me. I apologized and told her that I hadn't made any more and offered her crackers, as I was putting my wife's portion in the fridge. After that, I just went outside with my sister's husband to smoke a cigarette and shoot the breeze. Didn't think anything of it. But then I hear yelling from inside. When I walked in, my wife and my mom were screaming at each other. Apparently, my mom, who saw me put my wife's food away, gave my niece my wife's portion of food. As I was walking inside, I heard my mom say, "Looks like you can afford to skip a meal," and slapped my wife's stomach. Right as soon as I get ready to step in, literally fast walking toward them yelling, "Enough," my wife whines back and punches my mother square in the face and drops her. The whole house went silent outside of my mom crying and holding her face. I tell everyone to get the freak out. Immediately, everyone leaves, and my wife just turns toward the counter and leans with her hands on the counter and face down, eyes closed. I look at my wife and say, "You two, leave now." She says, "Really?" She's crying at this point. I say a clipped yup. She packs up her and the baby and leaves. I text her that night and say I just need space. I need to decompress and come to terms with what just happened. She doesn't respond. The next 5 days, I'm texting and calling, and I get nothing. She shows up here today, so 8 days later, and hands me divorce paperwork and my baby and says, "Here, you have a bit to hang out with her while I pack. When I'm breastfeeding, we can work out a visitation schedule that is either at your place or my mother's until she will take a bottle." I told her that's not what I want. I don't want to separate. I just needed time to process her punching my mother in the face. She said, "You needing time to process gave me time to process the fact that I refuse to be in this situation any longer." I defended myself. I initially felt bad and remorseful, but you making me leave when I needed you made me see more clearly. I'm done. I'm sorry for what I did, but there's no fixing this. She refused to speak to me at all the rest of the time that she was here. My house feels so empty and I don't know what to do. Am I the a-hole for making her leave after she punched my mom? I just needed some freaking space. Edit. To add. For the record, I am team wife. My mom deserved it wholeheartedly, and I've blocked her completely from my life. I literally just needed time to process what happened. My wife is a lot of things. Violent is not one of them. So this came completely out of left field and would not have happened without her being provoked. After it all happened, my mom sent me a text saying, "See? I told you she was crazy. That fat bitch doesn't belong in your life." I'm willing to bet she purposely tried setting my wife off. So no, I'm on my wife's side 100%. I truly just needed to process what happened, and my wife took it as me giving up on her, not defending her and throwing her and our baby out, which did essentially happen because I knew she had to take the baby with her when I kicked her out. Edit to add, the reason why: my dad was stupid abusive. I was beat. My sisters and brother were beat. My mom was put in the hospital multiple times. It took years for police to enforce restraining orders, and he finally died in 2013. Violence scares the crap out of me. I clam up and get anxious around violence of any kind now. My wife knows this, and she too grew up with a violent dad, stepdad, and she gets just as anxious and panicky around violence. Her punching my mom in the face triggered an anxious response, and I needed her gone in that moment. I needed it far away from me. I don't know why I didn't just leave. I could have. But in that moment, I just let my emotions and fear run the whole freaking circus and told everyone to get out, her included. My mom slapped her first. I guess for some reason I was seeing my wife's punch as being worse than the slap. It wasn't a hard slap, but my wife did kind of wince, looking back on it now. She was fine, but my mom was bleeding. Split her eyebrow open in good shape. I don't know. Thanks for the responses. I'm the a-hole. I'm going to try to go kiss butt now. Relevant comments and additional info from OP. OP said that my mom did hurt her. She slapped her in the stomach, and my wife winced back in pain before punching her in the face. As a few other people have pointed out, I guess new moms have muscles separated in their abdomen, so given the force that my mom slapped her in the stomach, like a little bit below the rib cage, full backhanded slap, which could be heard from the door. I guess it's comparable to hitting my wife in her internal organs, because her stomach muscles aren't healed. I just learned that. Pretty Little Accident said, I'm sorry, you're saying it wasn't a hard slap, but you could hear it? Unless it was skin on skin, slaps are not usually something that can be heard at a distance. Older Man 42 said, Yep, you're the a-hole. Your mom wants to be your wife, or at least more important than her. You really did need to prioritize your wife over your mother. End of story. I hope you get another shot at it. Kind of depends on the past. If she has enough positive memories to make it worthwhile in her mind. OP replied, Starting to see that. My wife sent me a text about 10 minutes ago saying, look up emotional incest, with no context. Definitely describes what my mom's doing. I did completely block her, but it won't help my case. Carrie Fantastic 6990 said, Info. What other comments did your mom make about your wife? OP replied, that she was stealing me away, that she wasn't good enough. Made a few comments about the baby trapping me. Never said it directly to me or my wife, but it got back to us quickly. She tried denying it at first, but later confirmed she said it. That's when I threatened no contact, and nothing ever got back to us after that. I just assumed all had cleared up. Update from OP's wife. I'm still grieving at the loss of my marriage, but my friend had notified me about my husband's post that had too many specific details that were hard to ignore. To clarify, this is my first time on Reddit. I read my soon-to-be ex-husband's post and wanted to give my side of the story and include details that he didn't provide in his post. For those who hadn't read it, long story short, my husband kicked me out of the house after his mother had physically slapped my stomach in front of him, and I punched her in self-defense. I loved my husband dearly, but his lack of action regarding his mother's behavior was extremely disgusting, to say the least. I tolerated his mom's behavior long enough until I couldn't take it anymore, as he had overlooked his mom's behavior over and over again until finally I had enough. I was still recovering after giving birth to his child when his mom slapped my stomach, and my husband exaggerated when he said it wasn't a hard slap. The slap itself was hard enough to be heard by everyone in the room. I had lost it at this point when his mother slapped my stomach with a turd-eating smirk that wasn't visible from my husband's point of view. At least, that's what my husband claimed. I had a mental breakdown when my husband told me to leave after kicking everyone out of the house. You should have seen his face when he told me to get out with a straight face and without hesitation. Our baby was crying at this point before I left, and I couldn't do anything but cry that night after I went to stay with my mother. His mother sent me a text mockingly saying, I am going to file charges against you for assault, you fat little W word. Now stay the freak out of our lives. She ended the text with a smiley face at the end. I was livid and decided I did not want to be associated with this family anymore and served my husband divorce papers. And as you can guess, he didn't take it well and tried to get me to reconsider. I told him that he overlooked his mother's behavior one too many times, and I was done with him and his inability to establish boundaries with his mother. I recommended setting boundaries, but he didn't think it was necessary, even after I told him throughout the pregnancy about the nasty names his mother called me when he wasn't around, and he always brushed it off. Even though he did tell his mom to stop, she would continue this behavior after a short pause for a while. Before I left, after handing him divorce papers, he begged me for another chance and told me he cut contact with his mother permanently. I told him that he is sorry now that I handed him divorce papers and that he was too late to act now that I decided I wanted out of the marriage. I told him I loved him so much that he should look at it as a sign that if I didn't, then I would have divorced him long ago because he didn't stand up for me multiple times. And I let his mother's snarky comments and behavior slide at my mental expense. Again, I told him he needed help with the trauma because I understand that he is dealing with trauma since he already mentioned my abusive stepdad. But he didn't even realize that his mother hadn't gotten him help for his trauma and that he is still being affected in his adulthood. What I can't understand is why he didn't leave if he needed some space instead of being such a heartless bastard and kicking our child out with me. I've been ignoring his texts and calls ever since, and I'm waiting for a divorce hearing. Something that I wanted to point out is that his mother had attributed to his niece's weight gain, since she lives with my husband's sister to save money. I, once again, told my husband about his niece's weight gain. It's concerning that she weighs 190 pounds at such a young age, and she was indeed not that weight before. On the day of the incident, I was making the niece's second portion of food, and then my husband's mother came towards me and snatched the plate out of my hands and said, "I'll do it myself. Let me take care of it." And when I tried to take the plate back, his mother said, "I know what to freaking do. You don't know how to properly feed someone as healthy as my grandchild?" I was shocked that she thinks that her grandchild's weight was normal for her age. I couldn't take this harassment or abuse any longer, and my breaking point was reached when he kicked me and our child out of the house. Now I need to do what's right for our child because she doesn't need to be in a toxic household where she has to witness the drama going on. My soon-to-be ex-husband wants us to do marriage counseling, to which I have refused to do so because I am done with him. I'm starting to feel slightly guilty with his begging and gaslighting. I just want to be done with him. I've blocked him as recommended by my lawyer, but he keeps reaching out through his other family members and siblings. What should I do to make him go away until the divorce hearing? The Kitten Patrol said, when he said that his mom 100% stopped the comments, I was certain that she just stopped them in front of him. Completely unsurprised that MIL kept it up. Rainy Reminder said, "Yep. I have a crappy mother-in-law, and her whole deal has been trying to make sure she flies under my husband's radar with her crappy comments, etc. It seems to be shocking to her that we actually talk to each other, so he knows all the shit she's said and done." IRU Leighton said, his wife was even crying over what happened, and he literally doesn't care. I'm sorry she had a child with such a cold, heartless bastard. She's going to have a nightmare of time getting him to pay alimony and child support. Am I the a-hole for refusing to cover my friend's rent after she's been paying for our roommate's share for 2 months? All right, here's the deal. I, 22 female, have been living with my best friend, 23 female, and 2 other roommates for about a year now. Everything started out fine, but it's all gotten a bit messy lately. One of our roommates, 24 male, lost his job about 2 months ago. He's still looking for work, but he's been getting by asking my best friend to cover his portion of the rent and utilities. She has a full-time job and could technically afford to do this for a while, but she's still been asking me and the other roommate to help with our share of things too, as she can't pay the full rent on her own. I totally get that people go through tough times, and I get that he's trying to find work. But here's where it starts to feel off. He's not really doing enough to help himself. He's been taking casual gigs here and there, but it's not like he's putting in the kind of effort needed to really get a stable job. He's been living off the generosity of my best friend, and honestly, it's starting to feel like she's enabling him rather than him actually trying to get his life together. I've talked to her about it, and she says it's not a big deal because he's her friend, and she doesn't mind helping him out. But I told her that I'm not comfortable with her paying for someone's rent who isn't making enough of an effort to help themselves. I also told her that I can't keep carrying the extra weight if things don't change, because I'm already struggling to make ends meet too. Last night, I told her that I'm done contributing to this situation. If he doesn't start pitching in for rent soon, then I think he should move out. It's not my responsibility to pick up the slack just because he's a friend of hers, especially if he's not taking steps to improve his situation. I told her that I can't help her cover for someone who isn't showing any signs of working toward a solution. She was devastated. She said I was being cold-hearted and that I was being selfish. She told me I'm acting like I don't care about him and that true friends support each other, even when it's hard. Now, some of our mutual friends are backing her up, saying that I'm being too harsh and that I'm not being a good friend by not helping out. I'm really torn because I want to support my best friend, but I also don't think it's my responsibility to keep this going. Am I being unreasonable? Am I the a-hole? For not wanting to contribute to this situation anymore and telling him to move out if he doesn't start paying his share? Now for some comments. East Parking, 8340 said, "True friends do not mooch. True friends do everything within their power to get an income." DoorDash, Uber Eats, McDonald's whilst looking for something more long-term. True friends do not agree to fund someone else and then get others to provide money too. True friends do not force you to beggar yourself to pay for them. True friends do not get vicious when the truth is voiced. If these others are so disconcerted by you not wanting to pay for someone else's expenses, especially when it's hard enough to cover your own costs, they should put their dang money where their mouth is and pay for him themselves, not the a-hole. La Luna Lady 1960 said, "They should put their dang money where their mouth is." Exactly. It's always so easy to be generous with someone else's wallet, not the a-hole. Eastern Condition 863 said, "Not the a-hole. It's not sustainable." She's robbing Peter to pay Paul. If she's okay with the arrangement and wants to help out her friend, then she needs to be the one to pay her share and his, not then turn around and dip into your pockets because she's now broke. And for the record, you're allowed to be selfish when it comes to your money, especially when you're barely making ends meet yourself. Don't rob Peter to pay Paul, and don't set yourself on fire to keep others warm.